So that's Savannah. Then we get Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. And again, noticing an interesting trend here. We still get sort of the recounting of everything again. But then he of Traditionis Custodes, etc. And
he's basically trying to Cardinal Gregory is trying to butter up the traditionalists before putting the hammer down on them, basically.
Yes. But what's interesting about it is he's sort of full knowledge. I know that this is old. This is very rooted in the Archdiocese, because he goes on to say, as far back as 1984, which again was very few places then, with the publication of Quatuor Adinganus by the Congregation for Divine Worship, a small group of faithful were given permission. And it goes all the way back. Then in 1988, it was expanded, again, summarizing, and then expanded again in 2007 by Pope Benedict's permissions and his documents, and including the sacraments and liturgical books, right, throughout the Archdiocese. So he admits it was the Mass, sacraments, everything. The time I've served as Archbishop of Washington, I've discovered that the majority of the faithful who participate in these liturgical celebrations of the Archdiocese are sincere, faith-filled, and well-meaning. Likewise, the majority of priests who celebrate these liturgies are doing their very best to respond pastorally. Everything's great. Oh, well, too bad. You're gone anyway. I mean, that's really what he's saying. Well, everything's great. Everything I've seen is great. But this is what Francis wants now. And yet it's very much that mentality described so well by Peter Kwasniewski in his many writings on false papalism, of everything we do is whatever the whim of the Pope is. We live in a dictatorship of whim. And hey, all this was great under John Paul II, Benedict, et cetera, et cetera. But we got Francis now. So even though that was all great, you're very reverent, it's all gone.
There's a new party chairman, so we have to follow.
Exactly. So he then goes on to issue his decrees, which are here the actual decrees. They come into effect in September 21st. When they come into effect, they replace everything. Anything else is all gone. Let's skip the preamble. We get to the heart of the matter. Traditionis Custodes reaffirms the theological and canonical principle. The diocesan bishop is the high priest. Again, it's all about contradictory, right? Bishop makes all the decisions, but Bishop Savannah doesn't. Nope, Rome tells him what to do. Right? His letter, we got to do what Pope Francis said. Well, what happened to be you being the high priest in your diocese?
Right, exactly.
Okay. And then he goes on about a bunch of listening sessions, which I think he admits in this, wanted the traditional Mass preserved. He doesn't say that explicitly, but it's pretty clear that's what came out in these listening sessions.
And essentially what he said is that some re-education is in order as based on what he heard at the listening sessions, part of the synod on synodality.
Yes, people need to be sent to re-education camps. So as of September, all priests, deacons, and instituted ministers need to request and receive permission from the Archbishop to celebrate either publicly or privately. Again, permission. I don't know what an instituted minister would be doing privately, but whatever. Those making such a request have got to prove how expert they are in everything, to sufficiently thorough. Again, you don't have to prove anything to do a clown mass or your bubble mass and all that. You can do all that in the Novus Ordo, but got to prove your credentials. Clergy and instituted ministers making this request must explicitly affirm in writing, you must sign the party line, the validity and legitimacy of the liturgical form dictated by the Second Vatican Council. Well, number one, you couldn't sign that because it's just a false statement.
Right.
The new Mass was not dictated by the Second Vatican Council. I mean, they don't even go so far to say it's like enabled or requested by. Literally, it says dictated, as if the 5,000 bishops sat there dictating the new Mass. So first of all, on a very simple level, you say, I can't sign this. It's false history. But they don't care about that. And the magisterium of the Supreme Pontiffs. So you have to sign the party line and demonstrate an appreciation of the value of concelebration. Well, so a novel practice in the church. And what's that mean? You better participate in is what that means.
Right.
When you're preparing the written request, asking for permission, you have to note the frequency and location of such celebrations. Because again, the whole goal here is to
so the Vatican II police can show up if needed.
Exactly, if needed. It's not possible to grant by nation. So that means if a community wants the mass, the priest cannot be able to say, if you have to have, if it's a diocesan priest who has a parish to take care of, he's done for the day. So he won't be able to do that. That was the key to that, is shut down masses. The archbishop will appoint a priest, again, the overseer, the secret police head. Celebration of the Mass, according missal, will occur only on Sundays in non-parochial churches distributed geographically throughout the archdiocese. They're designated locations, and he gives a couple of them here. There are 3 of them throughout the entire archdiocese. Notice only 1 of them is in Washington, D.C. The rest are in Maryland. 1 in the entire city. I forget how many million people live in the city. No celebration of traditional Mass on Christmas. Remember, even Savannah allowed that before Vatican shut it down, and will allow it until May of 23. Christmas, Triduum, Easter Sunday, and Pentecost. Notice that's not like Supich. That was Supich. They're all playing from the same playbook here. Exclusively liturgical books of Paul VI. And then we've got the readings must be in the approved translations by the USCCB.
My favorite one's coming up here.
All other sacraments are to be celebrating liturgical books promulgated by Paul VI. Rites may be celebrated in Latin.
My favorite one in the norms is, it says basically sermons at traditional masses are, quote, to reflect the norms and directions for preaching indicated by Vatican II and post-conciliar documents.
What would those be? Do they include having a layperson do a bubble sermon? I think they probably do. They're really concerned about those norms. Yeah.